Okay, so imagine like a creature, taller than a chimney stack, just kind of lumbering through your town while you're asleep.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, sounds kind of nightmarish. But tonight we're diving into Alan Bould's poem, The Malfeasance.
Yeah.
And it's not your typical monster story.
Yeah.
It's got fear,
Yeah.
but it's also got kindness
Hmm.
and how like a whole community can find connection when they're faced with something they don't understand.
I think what's so interesting about the Malfeasance is how it takes all of our expectations about a monster story and kind of flips them on their head,
Yeah.
you know?
Bold just throws us right into this dark and eerie night. Everyone's tucked away, sleeping in their beds. And then all of a sudden, this absolutely massive creature
Right.
just appears.
Yeah.
And he's called the Malfeasance appropriately.
Yeah.
He's huge. Like Bill describes him as taller than a chimney stack, more massive than a church. And he's got these scaly feet that make this like squelching sound with every step.
Yeah.
It's an image that's designed to make your skin crawl.
Exactly, it is. And Bold uses such vivid imagery to really tap into our primal fear of the unknown, of the monstrous.
Right.
But then he kind of throws a curveball into the mix,
Yeah.
He tells us the malfeasance had done no harm.
That line, like, it changes everything, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because here we have this creature that is like straight out of our nightmares, but he hasn't actually hurt anybody. So why are we so terrified?
I think it speaks to something so deeply ingrained in us as humans. We fear what we don't understand.
Yeah.
The malfeasance is he's outside our normal frame of reference, and that alone is enough to trigger a panic response.
And panic is exactly what happens.
Right.
Like people are running, screaming, total chaos. Even the police, who are supposed to be like the calm in the storm, even they're gripped with fear.
Oh, yeah.
And they try everything to stop this creature. Bullets, airplanes, you name it.
Wow.
But nothing works.
Yeah.
The bullets just bounce harmlessly off of his thick hide. And when they send the airplanes after him,
Yeah.
he just grins at them.
It's like he's toying with them.
Yeah. It's like he's almost amused by it.
This is where I think Bold's social commentary really starts to shine through. He's highlighting just how absurd it is to respond to fear with force, with aggression.
Yeah.
It's like this knee-jerk reaction that so often we have as people where we think that we can control things with force,
Right.
but it never works, it just makes it worse.
It's like trying to put out a fire with gasoline.
Exactly.
So what happens next? Does the town descend into like complete pandemonium?
Well, not quite. In this really surprising moment of clarity, somebody suggests a radical approach: kindness.
Kindness to a creature that's bigger than a church,
Right.
that takes guts, that takes some serious courage, especially when everyone around you is losing their minds.
Absolutely. This is the turning point in the poem, this pivotal moment where Bold challenges all of us to reconsider our instinctive reactions to fear.
Okay.
What if instead of meeting aggression with aggression, we chose empathy?
That's a pretty wild idea,
Yeah.
but it seems to catch on. People start offering the malfeasance refreshments. They're waving friendly greetings.
Like what?
Yeah. And get this, the malfeasance stops dead in his tracks. Steam starts rising from his back. I mean, what's going on here? Is he confused? Is he touched? It's definitely not what you expect from a monster.
Right. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
It really is. And I think Bold here is so cleverly using this concept of the sublime, this overwhelming feeling of awe and terror,
Right.
to really highlight the power of this unexpected kindness you have. The malfeasance, this being that should represent everything we fear, and he's totally disarmed by this simple act of human connection.
I'm hooked. What happens next? Does the malfeasance accept the cookies and the tea? Does he join the town for a potluck?
Well, it's not quite that straightforward, but it is just as powerful as the townspeople's friendliness intensifies. Something incredible happens. The malfeasance dissolves. He just fades away into mist,
Wow.
leaving behind this shimmering trail of light.
So the creature that seems so threatening just disappears when met with kindness.
Yeah.
It's like Bold is saying that sometimes the things we think are monstrous are just misunderstood.
Exactly. And what's left behind, not destruction, but this strange sense of peace and connection.
Right.
Bold writes that the people who were once united by fear found each other.
So they chose kindness. And in doing so, they not only got rid of the threat, but they discovered a deeper sense of community that's pretty powerful.
It really is. It speaks to this idea that even these shared experiences that are rooted in fear can be what brings us together, can make us stronger.
Wow.
But of course, Bold being Bold, he doesn't leave us with this simple happily ever after ending. He adds that final line and thereby hangs a tale.
That line always gives me chills. It's like this little warning sign.
Yeah.
A reminder That there's more to this story than meets the eye.
Exactly. And that's where we'll pick up in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay.
We'll unpack that cryptic ending and explore some of the deeper themes and think about what this all means for you, the listener.
Because let's face it, we all have our own malfeasances to contend with those things that make us afraid and uncertain.
We do.
But maybe, just maybe, Bold's poem offers us a different way of approaching them.
So we left off with this image of the malfeasance dissolving into mist and the townspeople finding each other, and then that last line,
Yeah.
and thereby hangs a tale.
It's like Bold is giving us this little mystery, daring us to pull on the string and see what happens.
What's so interesting about that line is how it works on so many different levels. On the surface, it's an actual tale, something physical left behind by the malfeasance.
Like a little souvenir he left us.
Right, exactly. But it's also symbolic. It makes us ask bigger questions, like what does that tale really mean? Is it a warning? Is it a threat that's still there?
Or could it be something else? Maybe like a symbol of hope or a reminder of how things changed.
I think it can be all of those things at the same time. That's what makes it so interesting. Bold doesn't give us a nice, simple answer, and that forces us to really think about how complex this situation is.
It's like he's saying that even when we choose kindness and even when we overcome our fear, there are still things we don't know and things that could happen.
Exactly. And that's where the deeper themes of the poem come into play. Things like how we see the world and how society makes us think in certain ways.
Okay, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
How does the malfeasance connect to those ideas?
Well, the whole poem is about this contrast between how things look and how they really are. The malfeasance looks like a monster because of his size and how strange he is, but he doesn't do anything monstrous.
So he's judged based on how he looks, not on what he does.
Right. And that's such a powerful statement about how we as humans tend to judge things too quickly based on just what we see we're afraid of, what's different, what we don't get.
And that fear can lead to really bad things like prejudice and discrimination, even violence.
Exactly. Bold isn't just telling a fun story about a monster. He's making us look at ourselves and how we treat people who are different from us.
And in that context, the tale takes on a whole new meaning. It's like a reminder that even though the malfeasance is gone, the potential for fear and misunderstanding is still there.
It's the legacy of prejudice. It's the things society has taught us. It's that voice in the back of our minds that says, be careful, be afraid.
But the poem also gives us some hope, right? The fact that the people were able to overcome their fear and choose kindness shows that change is possible.
Absolutely. And that's the part of the poem that really speaks to me. It's a call to action. It's an invitation to question what we believe, to challenge our own biases, and to choose empathy over fear.
So what does all this mean for us, the listeners? How do we use these ideas in our own lives? I mean, we're not going to run into a creature taller than a chimney stack anytime soon, are we?
Well, maybe not literally, but we all have our own malfeasances, things that we have to deal with.
Like that big presentation at work, or that tough conversation you've been putting off, or even just the fear of what might happen in the future.
Exactly. And Bold's poem suggests that maybe, just maybe, we can look at those challenges in a different way. Instead of being afraid and aggressive, what if we tried kindness? What if we tried to understand those challenges better?
It's like that saying, be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a hard battle.
I love that that's a perfect way to put it. You never know what someone else is going through, what they might be afraid of. A little bit of kindness can go a long way.
And maybe, just maybe, by choosing kindness, we can get rid of our own malfeasances, those things inside us that stop us from really living our lives.
I like that it's about seeing the humanity in everything, even the things that scare us.
It's about remembering that we're all connected, we're all part of something bigger. And maybe that tale isn't just a warning, but a reminder that we can change and grow and heal.
Bold leaves us with that sense of hope and possibility. He doesn't give us all the answers, but he makes us want to keep asking questions, keep trying to understand, and keep choosing kindness, even when it's tough.
Okay, so we talked about the fear, the kindness, that weird tale hanging around. But what does Bold's the Malfeasance actually give us, us, the listeners out here in the real world with no chimney-sized monsters?
Yeah, that's the big question, right? How do we take these huge ideas like fear and kindness and actually use them in our everyday lives?
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to say choose kindness when you're dealing with a monster in a poem. But what about like dealing with a rude coworker or getting stuck in traffic or the news always being so stressful? Where's the lesson from the malfeasance and all that?
I think Bold gives us more of like a way of thinking than like actual steps to follow.
Yeah.
Remember how the townspeople first reacted? It was totally normal panic, trying to force things to change, and it didn't work at all.
They were so focused on what the malfeasance was that they didn't stop to think about why he was there. It was only when they changed their perspective and were willing to try something totally different that things got better.
And that's what we should learn, I think, no matter what it is, whether it's something small that's bugging you or a big problem in the world. Bold is telling us to stop and question what we think and look deeper.
So instead of asking, how do I beat this, we should be asking, what's really going on here, and is there a nicer way to deal with it?
Exactly. And that doesn't mean being a pushover or letting people take advantage of you. Kindness isn't weakness. It's about trying to understand where the other person is coming from.
It's about remembering that everyone is human, even the people who seem like monsters.
Which brings us back to that tale and how we don't really know what it means. I think it shows us that this is something we have to keep working on. We might never get rid of fear or misunderstandings completely, but we can try to be more aware, more compassionate, and more willing to choose kindness even when it's tough.
And maybe if we do that, we'll start to see some of that shimmering light. Those moments where people connect and things change for the better in our own lives.
That's a great thought. And really, isn't that what we all want? That those moments where things just click and we understand each other?
Totally. So as we wrap up our deep dive into the malfeasance, we want to leave you with this. What tales are you carrying? What are you afraid of or struggling with?
And how could you try to deal with those things with a little bit of that malfeasance kindness?
Think about it. Explore the poem and see what you discover about yourself and how you connect with the world.
Thanks for joining us today. We hope this made you think and maybe inspired you to be a little kinder and a little less afraid.
Until next time, keep diving deep.